Good morning, Year 4. This is your fourth reading lesson and your last English lesson of the week, having to do with the story, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. So I just want to remind you that all your tasks can be found in Seesaw under Activities, and that they're going to be completed throughout and at the end of this video. And make sure you upload them to Seesaw for your teacher to approve. And this whole lesson should take about 40 to 45 minutes. So what we're doing today is we are summarizing. And we summarize in order to show our understanding of a text and to be able to pick out key parts in a text that we read. And it also helps strengthen our memory. So how we are doing this today is we are going to do some storyboarding. So we're going to first review. In chapter 4, Pellegrina told a story within our story of the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane. So we're going to have one more listen to Pellegrina's story that she tells inside of our story. So this time when you listen, I want you to pay really close attention to the details of Pellegrina's story. So what happens in the beginning, the middle, the end, who are the characters, what is the problem, that sort of thing, because you will need that for your activity. So let's listen.
Once there was a princess who was very beautiful. She shone as bright as the stars on a moonless night. But what difference did it make that she was beautiful? None. No difference. Why did it make no difference? asked Abilene. Because, said Pellegrina, she was a princess who loved no one and cared nothing for love, even though there were many who loved her. At this point in her story, Pellegrina stopped and looked right at Edward. She stared deep into his painted-on eyes again. Edward felt a shiver go through him. And so, said Pellegrina, still staring at Edward. What happened to the princess? said Abilene. And so, said Pellegrina, turning back to Abilene. The king, her father, said that the princess must marry, and soon after this a prince came from a neighboring kingdom, and he saw the princess, and immediately he loved her. He gave her a ring of pure gold. He placed it on her finger. He said these words to her, I love you. But do you know what the princess did? Abilene shook her head. She swallowed the ring. She took it from her finger and swallowed it. She said, that is what I think of love, and she ran from the prince. She left the castle and went deep into the woods. And so what? said Abilene. What happened then? And so, the princess became lost in the woods. She wandered for many days. Finally, she came to a little hut, and she knocked on the door. She said, let me in, I'm cold. There was no answer. She knocked again. She said, let me in, I'm hungry. A terrible voice answered her. The voice said, enter if you must. The beautiful princess entered, and she saw a witch staring at the table, counting pieces of gold. 3,622, said the witch. I'm lost, said the beautiful princess. What of it? said the witch. 3,623. I am hungry, said the princess. Not my concern, said the witch. 3,624. But I am a beautiful princess, said the princess. 3,625, replied the witch. My father, said the princess, is a powerful king. You must help me or there will be consequences. Consequences, said the witch. She looked up from her gold. She stared at the princess. You dare talk to me of consequences? Very well, then. We will speak of consequences. Tell me the name of the one you love. Love? Said the princess. She stamped her foot. Why must everyone always speak of love? Whom do you love? Said the witch. You must tell me the name. I love no one, said the princess proudly. You disappoint me, said the witch. She raised her hand and said one word. Fart figure. And the beautiful princess was changed into a warthog. What have you done to me? Squealed the princess. Talk to me of consequences now, will you? Said the witch, and she went back to counting her pieces of gold. 3,626, said the witch, as the warthog princess ran from the hut and out again into the forest. The king's men were in the forest too, and what were they looking for? A beautiful princess. And so when they came upon an ugly warthog, they shot it immediately. Pow! No, said Abilene. Yes, said Pellegrina. The men took the warthog back to the castle, and the cook slit open its belly, and inside it she found a ring of pure gold. There were many hungry people in the castle that night, and all of them were waiting to be fed. So the cook put the ring on her finger and finished butchering the warthog. And the ring that the beautiful princess had swallowed shone on the cook's hand as she did her work. The end.
Okay. So now that we've had a refresher of that story, and I hope you are paying close attention to the parts, let's carry on. So right now, you are going to pause this video to fill in your thoughts on the following questions. So in Seesaw, under activities where you found this lesson, this was in add response. So you are going to fill in what happens in Pellegrina's story. Why does the princess run away? What is the princess's consequence? What characters in the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane is the princess like? What character in the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane is the witch like? And what is the moral or message for us to learn from Pellegrina's story she told us? So take about 10 minutes only to try to answer these questions. So set your iPad timer for 10 minutes. And once you've answered them or the time is up, you're going to upload what you've completed to Seesaw and then come back here for the lesson. The biggest thing I want to point out is what you see up here. You must be answering these questions in full and complete sentences that start with a proper capitalized letter, capitalized word, and it must have ending punctuation. So please make sure you are remembering proper sentence structure in your digital tasks. All right, pause the video, go back to Seesaw, set your timer for 10 minutes, and answer these questions. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to summarize what happened in Pellegrina's story, just so we make sure we remember the key points. So let's start with a princess. We have a princess, and then a prince comes along. The prince falls in love with the princess, and he gives her a gold ring. The princess swallows the gold ring, and she runs away. She comes across a witch, and the witch turned her into a warthog. And then the king's men who were looking for the princess found the warthog. They killed the warthog, and then they ate the meat of the warthog. So we're going to do a real quick text-to-text connection here. What other stories does this story that Pellegrina told you remind you of? Can you think of any? I've got 3 I thought of. I'm going to share those with you. So the first one I thought of was Beauty and the Beast. Because the beast is actually a prince who was cast a spell on by an evil witch that he turned into a beast, right? Sort of like there was a princess and a warthog and a witch. Those same things. Then I thought of Shrek, because Fiona was a human and a princess, and then she was turned into a creature of sorts. And I think that was by a witch as well. Okay. And then the third one I thought of was The Princess and the Frog. So again here, the frog is actually a prince who was cast an evil spell by a witch. You know, you get the gist, yeah? All of these are fairy tales with a human and an animal relationship, and they all have something to do about love, just like the story Pellegrina told us. So we're going to go over the elements of fairy tales. You guys have learned about fairy tales since probably in early years, in reception. So we're just going to do a quick review. We're going to watch this video first, and then we'll come back to our slideshow.
Using Powtoon.
Okay, hopefully that was a little helpful for you guys. I've lost my mouse. Okay. All right, so some common elements of fairy tales are that they begin with once upon a time. Fairy tales often happen in a long, long time ago, in the past. They have fantasy and make-believe in them. They are not realistic. Fairy tales have defined good characters and evil characters. Sometimes there's fairy godmothers. Most of the time there are witches. There's definitely normally royalty, princesses, princes, kings, queens. There may be magic with giants, elves, talking animals, witches, or fairies. Fairy tales are like most stories. They have a problem that has to be solved. Oftentimes, it takes 3 tries to solve the problem. Now that is something new that I learned from this lesson. Fairy tales normally have happy endings, and they say they all lived happily ever after. However, Pellegrina's did not end that way, did it? Fairy tales usually teach a lesson or have a theme or a moral. So your task now is you are going to take Pellegrina's story and you are going to spice it up a bit. You're going to make it your own. You need to keep the main plot the same. So the main idea of the story, the main things that happen in the story, probably most of the characters the same. But what I want you to do is add in more elements of fairy tales and maybe change one part to make the story better in your opinion. So here's my example. I would make the warthog be able to talk, and the men would keep her, the warthog, as a pet, showing the warthog love and ultimately teaching the princess how to love. And then once the princess learns how to love, she gets to change back into her human princess self, and then she marries one of the men who saved her, living happily ever after. So hopefully you see in my example, I use some of those elements of fairy tales in order to change it a bit and add in more fairy tale elements. So your task, bronze, you are going to create a 4-part storyboard with colored pictures. You've got to color those pictures in. And on the lines underneath each picture box, you are going to write a simple caption for each picture, a simple caption that says what's happening. Silver, you have 6 boxes in your storyboard to complete with colored pictures. And underneath each picture box, just do a simple sentence to explain each picture. So bronze, if you're doing a caption, it doesn't need to be a full sentence. It could just say, the witch. Silver, you need to have a full sentence. So you could say, the witch's house, something like that. Gold, you have an 8-part storyboard and still colored pictures. But in your lines under the picture boxes, I want you to have more detailed sentences explaining each picture. Maybe you're using adverbs and adjectives. Maybe you're using different kinds of conjunctions and show not tell phrases. Okay, so make sure you choose the task that's right for you. And I would say most of you are going for silver, some for gold, and a few for bronze. So here's my example of one box as a silver, okay? So silver had more a simple sentence, right? But the pictures are all the same for everyone. I chose to do mine digitally just because I am not printing papers out at home. I would say it would be easiest to print it out and draw your pictures on paper pencil. If you can't print it, just draw your pictures paper pencil. If you want to try it digitally, you can, but that's more of a challenge, okay? So I've got a picture of a warthog, a little love heart, a king's men, I've got this cool arrow, and then the princess. Now I said, the king's men kept the warthog as a pet, showing it love, and the warthog loved the king's men for saving her. When the warthog felt true love, she turned back to her true princess self. Now here's the feedback that I would give me if I was marking this as a teacher. I would say that this writing is more of a gold, right? Because I've used so many details and I've even done 2 sentences. So if you want to keep it just as, you could have, when the warthog felt true love, she turned back into her true princess self. This last sentence is all you need to be silver, but I would say both sentences would be required for a gold, okay? And remember, for bronze, you could just say something like, the warthog felt love and turned into a princess, okay? So remember, once you finish this task, make sure you upload your completed storyboard to Seesaw. That's it for today. Have fun making your storyboard.